speaking of players potentially departing, Derek Barnes, here's another one. And it was proposed by Pride of Detroit, specifically John Whitaker. I like that last name, Whitaker. That's a badass last name. I got to say that. John Whitaker of Pride of Detroit. He said in a recent, I guess, article of why the Lions might cut Za'Darius Smith. He said there's no incentive for the Lions to keep Smith on his current contract. They do not want to be on the hook for his prorated option bonuses. The only two ways I see Smith sticking around next season is either via a contract restructure or cutting, then re-signing him. So, I mean, he's set to make about $11 million. And I think incentives are included on that.
Yeah.
That was his so, and you saw the picture that he posted with the ring. Like, he obviously wants to come back. Just initial thoughts, I think he does come back. I do think it's restructured. I think it'll be like if Brad Holmes approaches Za'Darius and he's like, hey, you want to stay with this team, take less money, or maybe he's cut and then he's brought back on a cheaper deal. However it's worked out, I think they would like for him to stay, but for less money though. That would have to be my big thing. I don't think I'd pay him the 11, but I would like to see him back.
I wonder if there's a way. I don't know how it would work, but to me, I'm with you. I would love to see him on the opposite side of Hutch. Like this last year, you were with Davenport and thinking Davenport was going to be that guy. It doesn't stay healthy, so it's you can't rely on that. I think with Za'Darius, it's like he's been healthy. He could stay healthy over the last few years. Like you saw him on the other side of Myles Garrett. Myles Garrett gets a Defensive Player of the Year with him on the other side, kind of assisting him. I think that would be very valuable to have. Like if you go into next year with Aiden Hutchinson, Za'Darius Smith, DJ Reader, Ali McNeil, like that lineup right there, that's one of the best defense lines in the NFL if all four of those guys are healthy from top to bottom. So I think Brad, you look at it, looking at the money side of things, like I see Vincent said in the chat too, is not worth $11 million. I guess it just depends on how much you want to put money into that, into your defensive line this offseason. I think that's what it comes down to at the end of the day, because that's one of your weaknesses this last year was your D line. So if they're willing to say, hey, we'll pay a little extra to have this boosted up, and like Za'Darius doesn't want to restructure or want to redo his contract, then I think there's a world where they're like, let's just stick this thing out. Like we have him for one more year. And then he probably walks, and then that goes towards you trying to get a comp pick the next year. Right. Like, so there's that positive of it too, but I think that's going to be one of the biggest storylines of I know that we have a lot of different things going on now that the coordinators are down. It's what happens with, this defensive line in this corner room. Like that's going to be the biggest thing this offseason, in my opinion. Edge to the D 2.0, Tyler Chavez. Great point.
Shout out. I mean, I'm with you guys. I'd love to bring him back. Obviously, he's not a must-have, but if you do bring him back, I look back at Marcus Davenport 1 year, $6.5 million, and I would look at Za'Darius and say, hey, if we're going to pay you and you're going to come back to Detroit, it's going to be on this type of deal. I think anything north of 7, I'd be like, no, you can go get a guy on a 2-year deal that's probably a little bit better at this point of their career, but they do need to replace Za'Darius if he does leave with a similar type of player, because when you look at even guys in Philadelphia, like when you look at Sweat and Burks, like those guys, especially now come playoff time, those role player, those six man for the defensive line, those guys are huge, because when Aiden Hutchinson is now hopefully healthy, hopefully God, we never have to see that again. But when he needs a snap off in a playoff game, you need a guy that can go in there and have a play. And I think Za'Darius on rotation would be very valuable to have. But I mean, he's signed big contracts in his career, so I think this year he's not going to be looking to get paid. He's going to be looking to win. And if you're in Detroit, like we all love Za'Darius Smith for what he did this year. Like he was a very solid player. No one expected him to be a game wrecker, at least if you were being realistic about it. You knew that Za'Darius wasn't going to come in here and give this team 10 sacks. Like he was going to be a veteran player that could set an edge somewhat consistently. And I think that's what he could still do next year. I don't think he's going to drop off. As long as he's a rotational player and not the starter going into the season, I'm cool with it. But bring Za'Darius back, bring more dudes in. You got to get an actual defensive line this year on the edge.
I will say, if you move on from Za'Darius, like you better go out there and make a move. Like Brad, like he made the Davenport move, but like to me, that's not a needle mover. Like if he's healthy, it is potentially. But like you knew, Klotz, I give you credit. Like in the offseason, like the thing you kept saying is like, got to stay healthy. Got to stay healthy. Guess what? The man was not healthy. Like game 2 or 3, he was down and he was done for the year. Like that's a problem. Like if you're Brad and you say, hey, let's move on from Za'Darius, you better have a plan B. Like, you better have another plan, in my opinion, because you can't go into another year. Like, you can't go into another year without a plan on the defensive line, because if there's an injury, there's that, like, you can't get stuck in that. You have to build depth on this defensive line, especially in the edge room. Shift God, Matthew Judon. I love that. Matthew Judon's a free agent. I think when he got traded, I think he didn't sign a deal, and he was it was a rental in Atlanta. So, like, hey, I would pay Matthew Judon a little bit more than $6-7 million, to be honest, to bring him in.
Mm-hmm.
Him and Hutch. Oh my gosh, bring that man home.
He's gonna want more money. I would be open if they got a plan to replace him. Then yeah, let him go. You have to have someone proven. Like, if we're being honest, if you're just counting bodies, if you're just counting bodies in the defensive line room. Mekhi Wingo, in my opinion, he's already under contract. Let go of Levi. Like, I'm done. Like, let Levi go. Mekhi will replace him. And then you can finagle room in that D-line room. Like, no, if you don't bring Davenport back, okay, here's Za'Darius Smith. Maybe you draft someone else on the edge. Like, but if you don't bring back Za'Darius, like, to your point, Boone, yeah, you're going to have to bring in someone that's proven it. Because, like, dude, I'm not going through this thing this year where it's Hutch, Aleem, DJ Reader, and Josh Paschal, or a rookie on the other side. Like, bring in someone that has produced in this league. And Za'Darius
Can we be honest with this too? And I think this is a must, and I don't think there's a question about it. And there's people that want to go a different route. You can have that. To me, a must is either one, you re-sign Za'Darius, or you get a proven guy. And on top of that, what is the pick we have? 28?
Yeah.
You get an edge. And you have that as like your third, fourth guy. And you go get an absolute dude. Because I saw Ryan in the chat put this year's edge class is deep. 100%. If you can, in the first round, get yourself an elite edge rusher at 28, or even if you want to move up, like, you have a comp now. You have a third round comp. Like, if you want to move up into the top 20 or whatever you want to do, like you did with Teron last year, and just go get your edge rusher that you know you're about to have on a 4-year contract with that 5th-year option, you go and get that. So you have Hutch, and you have another first-round edge rusher, 2 elite guys, and then you have a proven guy until that rookie is really, he's a go. And you're like, hey, you could trust and fall back on him. And you go out and get a 1 or 2 year deal, whether you restructure Za'Darius or you go get a Matthew Judon, and you go get a proven guy that you know you can trust. And then you let those 3 guys, that's your top 3 edge rushers, 2 first-round picks and a proven guy in the NFL. I'm in on that. Like, I feel like I'm on the side, boys, as I know we're just early on and in the draft and the offseason with free agents. That's my number 1 goal this offseason is go, like, number 1, fix this edge room. Number 2, make sure your corner room's good as well. But I think that first round draft pick, and you need to go out and get a proven guy at the edge if you don't stick with Za'Darius. I think that's like 1A. Has to be done.
Yeah, I'm with you. My head will explode because, especially, we talked about it all last year in the offseason. Like, if you're at 28, do not take a corner this year in the first round. No. Do not. Like, that's going to be a guy that's going to have to develop. He's going to have experience. You see, even in second, third round guys, like, there's defensive ends that can play right now. And I'm with you, Boom. Like, get Za'Darius Smith, get that first round draft pick, and even bring somebody else in free agency as well. Like, make that edge group, take it from the weakness, arguably, to the strength of this team. Because you look around the dominant defenses in the NFL, if you don't have a Chris Jones in your dominant defense, it's because you're loaded at the edge position. And if the Detroit Lions can do that, especially when you're having a new defensive coordinator, new offensive coordinator, if you can have a good edge room to go with a good offensive line, you're going to be in a better position than you would be if you were just kind of be like, hey, let's go bring in what we did last year to Marcus Davenport, just guys that can get us through the year. You need to put yourself in a position to make plays rather than just react to the offense.
Yeah, no more. And I know no more project players. We agree with that. No more of these, like, and I know Brad hammered this at his press conference, which leads me to believe that for this draft and maybe free agency, he's going to be focused on depth, because we saw this year the edge room. Once you lost Aiden, you lost Davenport, they were clawing and scratching for depth, and they lost a lot more, obviously, Aleem too. But I think Brad this year understands, okay, I think we kind of rode the shoulders of Aiden for so long that we got to get some more depth in this edge room. Like, you can't get away with having a 1-year rental and Marcus Davenport. So for the draft, although Brad makes it very clear it's best player available, that's how he's going to draft. Don't lie to me, Brad. You know a position you got to get in the first round. And if there's a drop off in his eyes, then don't take it. Don't force it because of a position. But my goodness, if there's an edge looking at you, and he's got a lot of potential, and you're sitting there at 28, or maybe It's pick 21 in the draft, and you could trade up to 22 to get your guy. Do it. Go get someone like a Pierce out of Tennessee. I know he's not the best run defender, but still, dude, his win rate, pressure rate, very high. Crazy athlete, 6'5". I like him. And there's other guys like that as well.
Bring me Sawyer.
Jack Sawyer.
Sawyer.
And by the way,
I'm with you,
Jack
Klotzy. I'm in on that. I'm all in on that.
If Jack Sawyer is, and I don't know the drafts, I mean, we still got the combine. He could rise significantly. I don't know how that's going to go. If he's in those 20s range, Klotz,
you make a play and make a move. You do it.
Hey, what's going on there? It's Jeff Iafrate. Appreciate you for finishing the video. You can check out one of the videos here suggested or show support by commenting, liking, and subscribing. And buy your merchandise, officialctsports.com.